This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
We're born with genetic instincts that are hardwired into our DNA. Without instruction or training, we emerge from the womb and take our first breath. Our eyes open, and the first cries of life begin. From that moment on, everything we do is solely focused on one purpose, and that is to live another day. Under constant bombardment from external forces attempting to end this precious gift of life, we, as a species, have learned to endure. The human race has fought off death for eons. In modern times, staying alive is the easiest it's ever been throughout human history. Comfort breeds complacency, so we place ourselves into situations to sharpen our instinctual tools, acutely aware that the goal is not only to survive, but to thrive. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and on this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we sit down with Mike Turner to discuss the suffering of Survivor. Mike's taken toughness to a whole new level on CBS's Survivor. I'm hoping you watched him. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. And we also have the hurricane.
I was going to say, you can't disregard the elephant in the room.
Here we go. Here we go. Mike,
why do you say elephant?
Listen, Mike, just go along with it. Let them just
with two
talk and vent. And
with two Hobokenese guys in here, we're going to have a tough time talking about this stuff.
And Kev, I brought the Hoboken dictionary.
Very nice.
So when they start talking like Hobokenese,
hold on, let me open
Nothing
it.
over three syllables, right, guys?
All right. I educated him about comp last.
So it just says dis.
Yeah, no, look.
Oh, I got to turn the page.
No, look. It's empty.
Before we get into too much fun, this is going to be a great episode. Let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. Go to toyotahackensack.com. Let them find you a car. Cars are getting more and more difficult to find these days. They're experts at it. They can help you out. Mike Turner.
Yes,
so
sir.
We've been going back and forth for quite some time. I'm very proud of you, a New Jersey boy on a top-level show.
Jersey boy.
Hoboken.
Hoboken.
Okay.
Hoboken.
Your enunciation is getting so much better, Mike.
Well,
we're working on it.
Yes, thank you.
Wasn't Frank Sinatra from Hoboken?
Yes.
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was.
First baseball game.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. First
We got
baseball
a
game.
lot of Hoboken's pretty popular.
On the
really
waterfront?
It is.
There's much more.
On the waterfront, yeah.
I mean,
Oreos.
Frank Sinatra was like the best singer ever.
Oreos are from Hoboken?
Yeah.
Orioles too. That's right.
No kidding.
Seriously.
You're gonna tout that one as your big claim to fame?
Have you had an Oreo?
And me and Mike
about-
from Hoboken.
how about- I know they got wing nuts in Hoboken.
Let's just get on with the show. Get on with the social media question.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Each week we take a question from one of our audience, and this question was given to us by this really beautiful young lady named Lexi, and she says, being a first responder, how has that helped you overcome your suffering?
It taught me to persevere. It taught me that against all odds, we can always overcome. So anytime that I think about things are too hard, I think about the things that I went through as a first responder and what I've seen happen to people, and it makes me know that I can go forward harder every day.
Because aside from being on Survivor, you're a retired Hoboken fireman, and our show, we work heavily with first responders. So
See, he was smart. He went into the fire field.
you guys talk to each other,
Yeah.
not about each other.
Not about each
That's
other.
true. Like
exactly.
being a fireman is pretty cool.
Yeah. Mike, what do you think? How's being a first responder help you overcome? Well, okay. Mike.
No, I agree. No, first, I'm really happy. I respect you a lot for doing what you did, and obviously, I mean, we worked in the same town, and I always, looked up to you.
Thank you.
And it means a lot, So, I mean, I guess being a first responder just teaches you every aspect of life. You can overcome. Basically in my life, many obstacles, whether they were good, whether they were bad, it just,
Is that because you saw so much?
I did, and I was able to relate in so many different ways, not only when I was a police officer, an investigator, but it carried over into my own personal life. I'm able to, balance a lot, Sometimes it got a little overwhelming, but, it basically brought me through A lot of times, a lot of hurricanes. So,
well,
it is a great question.
We're gonna try to stir up the hurricane.
But
today.
yes, a very special person.
Yes, Lexi. And you know what? I just want to give a big shout out to Lexi because Lexi gave us these beautiful The Suffering Podcast bracelets, which will be on my wrist for a long time.
And she's going to make special one for Mike.
Yeah, what? She doesn't give them to her guests. What the heck?
For the record, 3 out of 4 people have one. Guess who didn't get one?
The guest. The guest. Mike, what do you think? How do you think it's helped you overcome?
Well, you know, I mean, we see people at their deepest and darkest times. I mean, you know, Mike, you as a fireman, you know, people's houses are just burned down, you know. And
they were happy to see you.
They lost everything, you know, they were happy to see you. But it teaches you, I mean, we bring it up all the time, resiliency. You know, you see the people at their worst time. You know, and sometimes you have to take all that in and think, maybe my life's not that bad.
Very true.
You know, that's what I think. I think it teaches us that although we come from all different walks of life, that the suffering that we endure is common to everybody.
We all bleed red.
There is nobody in this world that is immune to suffering.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've seen people at their worst times, and then when we go through our bad times, and we've all had them. You know, we have a little bit extra tools in the toolbox to help us through those.
And you know what it is too, when you see those people in their worst times, right? And then you see them again later in life, you have that common bond. You know, like, I mean, I've been on CPR calls before, and then you see that family like in your local ShopRite or something like that. You know, and it's like,
well, you share blood.
Yeah, exactly.
You share blood. You know, and Mike, you can probably attest to this. The guys who you were at war with or war alongside. There's probably a bond there that I can never understand, that Mike can never. There's fucking 3 Mikes in the room. God,
yeah, we are.
Damn it.
Let me put this on the record. He's bald and he's older than me.
Yeah, but he's wearing a hat. At least he's got some dignity.
I covered it.
Where's your dignity?
Oh. He's half bald too.
Oh. Huh? No, just on the top.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Next, we're gonna ask Ages.
You got to point every single thing out. Like.
But it's important. It's important things because it teaches you that resiliency. It teaches you how that you see these people. You're there to help them, and then when you share blood with people, that's a whole different aspect of it. Yeah. You know, you've done it in war, where we've done it in our professional lives, and you've done it in your professional life as well. You'll see them down the road, and you're like, "Hey, how's so and so doing? How's this person doing? How are you doing?" And automatically, boom, open up to you. Absolutely. How many times, and this is great, this is, Lexi, just to finish up this question, how many times have you seen somebody you helped in your professional life and they've come up to you and gave you a hug?
You know, it's funny you say that because it's not only hard times bring people together. Through history. Doubt. Whenever you have hard times, it makes the best in people come forward. There are times that people will even walk up to me that 20 years ago, that I may not even remember. And they come up to me and say, I remember the time that you came to our house and we had a flood and we didn't know what to do. You came in here, you brought the pumps in, you helped us out. You may not remember it because you do it so much, but they'll remember it for the rest of their lives. And that's the difference.
We don't. I always say when you show up to a call, you're one person. But the people that are at the call, there could be 10 people in the house.
Yeah.
You know, but you're one person. That's the face that they remember. That's the face that they assimilate to that incident. You know, I had a guy come up to me and say, you know, he recognized me and he said, I remember, he goes, I just want to thank you for what you did for my son. He goes, do you remember me? I had no idea who the guy was. Yeah.
Exactly.
But I'm like, oh, yeah. How's your son doing? He goes, you turned my son's life around.
Right.
No idea what I did.
No
clue.
What people forget is that we're the face that make people feel safe.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's all people want to do is they want to feel safe. Yeah.
Especially in a time of despair.
Well, it's a bunch of hard people. It's a bunch of hard people, and
you don't call 911 just to say hi.
No.
You call 911 because you're in despair. You need something. You need help. You're the first one that shows up. You know, and that's a face they remember.
Right. And listen, even as a civilian calling the police or calling the fire department or calling the ambulance as a young kid, when I saw them show up, it made me feel relaxed, confident, and quite frankly, it made me feel like I'm going to be okay now. And that's what we have to realize we bring to the public when we show up.
At least you had somebody to call. You imagine people, thousands of years ago, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
What do you do?
But
What do you
could,
do?
could you imagine calling 911 and this face shows up?
Oh my gosh.
Here we go again.
Well, before we get away, before we get off track, I want to thank Lexi. That was a great question. Keep sending your questions in, and we will try to get them on the air before we get too much of the Mike DePalma.
Let's get off this case here.
Mike Turner.
Yes, sir.
Hoboken Mike T. As I first came to know you, I remember you were brought to my attention by Mr. DePalma over here, saying, "Hey, this guy's on Survivor."
Survivor.
It's actually Survivor. Well, there is an R at the end.
Listen, by the end of like the next 15, they're gonna start talking exactly like that. I mean, like,
First of
okay,
all,
no
yeah.
problem.
I think you guys kind of like the way we talk.
Yeah, they really do, Mike. They
Keep the Hoboken
really
dictionary right
do.
here.
It is amusing.
You guys are gonna like us.
It is amusing. It is absolutely amusing. But some of the greatest people in the world that I've ever met are from Hoboken, Mike included in this one. Stewie,
great man.
Butchie,
Great people. Great people.
Benny Love, those are two new guys
Yep.
that I just met, and they're wonderful people. They bring you in, they welcome you with open arms. So why don't you give our audience a little bit about who Mike Turner is?
To be honest with you, I don't think I'm anything that special. I'm just a kid that, was born in Hoboken's housing projects, grew up down there. To us, being rich was to become a fireman or cop. That's what we thought our ceiling was. It was a very poor town at the time, and I grew up in the projects. We didn't have a lot, but we were happy. And just
You were happy with what you had.
and maybe because that's all we thought there was.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we didn't know any better. And again, if I saw a police officer or I saw a fireman, I was like, holy shit, man, that's what I want to achieve, because I thought that was the ceiling at the time.
Back in the day when they used to wear the wool coats,
Yes.
and stop in the bars
Yes.
for a little nip to keep them warm.
Yes.
There was an old Hoboken cop I used to go to the gym with, and he was one of the last ones apparently to wear those, and he goes, they were the best things in the world. You could stay warm forever. But that job, fireman is the job that most police officers want, and when about year 7, 8 inside the police department. How did you come about being a fireman?
Quite frankly, I wasn't a great student. You don't have, like it is now, I didn't have helicopter parents that always watched what I was doing. I pretty much ran the streets, did what I wanted.
Our parents worked all the time.
Yeah, so it was a different.
So
it was
you
a
didn't have a
different
parent
world.
over you all the time.
College was it was a luxury as opposed to a necessity that it is now. And I wasn't a good student. I didn't really care to go to college. I tried it for half a semester, failed out, and I said I want to do something that's worthwhile. I didn't want to load trucks, quite frankly. I didn't want to be a hard laborer my whole life. And I have a friend, John O'Brien, who wound up being my co-worker and then my captain and then my battalion chief, had made me aware of the fireman's test that was coming. I was like, first, like, the fireman's test, me? How could I become a fireman? I'm a kid from the projects. That's way beyond what I thought my realm would be. However, he coached me through it. I took the test when I was young, and it's the job where you feel like you're helping people. You still feel like you're needed. It's appreciated. And quite frankly, it's a job where when the bell goes off, you feel like...
It's a sense of purpose.
Right. And if you're an athlete, everybody wants the ball with a minute left to go in the game to put the ball in the end zone. And with the fire department, when that bell went off, that's kind of how you felt. They give me the ball, I got to score here, and that was the difference with saving somebody's life.
When a bell goes off, that's the ball being snapped.
Exactly.
And you're ready to run.
And that adrenaline is the same adrenaline that I felt playing football.
I often wondered that. I often wonder when that bell goes off, is it the same feeling that when the crack of the radio happened for us? Yeah. That same adrenaline rush. That same, we got to go.
You slide down the pole and all that stuff like firemen do.
Well, we used to slide down the pole, and too many guys got hurt, so they cut that out. Listen, firemen, we ain't the brightest tools, the sharpest tools in the shed either.
Somebody always fucks up.
Somebody always fucks up our game.
Yeah.
He brought up a good point. Like, we also felt safe. We worked in the same town. We responded to majority of the calls together. So when these guys showed up, we felt safe. It was a vice versa thing. It's a mutual thing.
That's a good point.
And, you mentioned certain names around Hoboken. It's Mike Turner. It's Mike DePalma. It's Stewie Chiricella. It's Benny Love.
Nicky Burke.
Nicky Burke. That's another one.
Mike knows Nicky Burke.
Of course.
You all know each other. I'm sure you're all related.
Of course we know each other.
You know what? And we always, no matter what it was, we always came together for this, or for that, those.
This,
yeah.
You're,
no, it was,
Mike, your enunciation is so awesome. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks. I feel good tonight.
See the twinkle in his eye?
Because he's performing in front of Lexi. That's why he's doing it.
Stop it.
He turns it on.
Listen, he's making Hoboken proud right now.
No,
He's
you know
Survivor
what?
series season
He's
60.
Survivor Hoboken.
Yeah. I'm a survivor of suffering podcast every week. What the
No, but Mike joins us for color commentary, I think, is the
color,
proper word. He's the color commentator. But that job, you had to see a lot of stuff. In how many years?
27 and a half years.
And you got on young, too, right?
Yeah, I got on there. Just about turning 19 years old. I was smart enough to say, my friends were hanging out in the corner. I'm saying, like, man, I really don't want to work a regular job. I wanted more.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I didn't know how to be a lawyer or to me, like, again, being a fireman was...
It's funny, too, because you said you didn't want to work a regular job. Being a fireman and being in law enforcement is a regular job. But to us who loved it, it wasn't a regular job.
46 years old? No, when did you retire? 46?
47. I just turned 47.
You just turned 47 now?
Yeah.
All right, you're the same age. And what year did you retire?
No, he didn't just turn 47 now. He said before he's 59.
Yeah, I'm 59.
I'm
and according to the guys on the island, like my man Romeo,
I'm not the oldest guy in the room.
117.
I'm sorry, this podcast is over.
Yes.
I only bring people who are younger than Mike. I can't do
This
it.
is the first.
He did say you were like 100 years old.
And he's bald, too. So
I'm
he's got
bald, I'm old,
No, wait.
I'm crickety.
Hold on. Bob Gibson was older than you.
Yes, he was.
Bob Gibson was
By a year or two.
He's
That's it?
He's a World War II vet who was at D-Day in the Battle of the
Oh, my
Bulge.
God.
Yeah,
And
he's 99.
barely older than you?
He's 99.
Just a little bit older than me.
Yeah, he's 99. So yeah, I get a little bit for that one. But you have this story career. What do you think was the worst call in your mind that you went on?
It's hard to say. I mean, there was some calls where we lost people. Always when you lose somebody, that's the one you say, could I have gotten there quicker? Could I have gotten to the apartment quicker? Could I have done something different to make a difference in whether this person made it or didn't make it?
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. And sometimes you ask those questions. We actually had a medical call, and we couldn't find where the person was. And so we're trying to figure it out. And I was a rescue captain at the time, and we were doing medical, and we had the ambulance there, and we're trying to figure it out. The guy called. He was having trouble breathing. We couldn't figure it out. We finally realized he had called from a rear apartment, basement, the old Hoboken. Really wasn't a legal apartment. And we finally have the dispatcher call back, and we hear the ringing, like a distant ringing. We follow the ring, and we find it in there. And by the time we got there and forced entry, he was gone. That was one of the worst, because I'm saying, why didn't I think of this first? Why didn't I think of that first?
One step away.
Yeah, and so that was, and that's not even a fire call. That was a medical call, but that's one of the worst how I felt that bothered me for a while. The fire calls, you lose people. Sometimes it's not even your fault. They're gone before you get there. But you still always wonder, could I have taken a faster route? Could I have gotten in quicker? If I had gone through this door, that door, if I had ventilated quicker, could we have gotten guys in there with with a line to put it out?
That Monday morning quarterback and
Always.
kill you.
And especially when you lose a life, because that's permanent, right?
You know what? I mean, in law enforcement, one of my worst calls was a fire call. We had a house fire, and I knew there was an elderly lady in the house. And I crawled into the house, and
Blue Canary.
I felt the leg of the kitchen table, and the fire. The smoke just got too much, and I turned around, and backed out. They found the lady right under the table. Right. I was within a foot away
Isn't that
from
crazy?
the lady.
I give you guys much respect. I mean, they put us. Remember with the fire? They put us in there. I'm like, oh my
No,
goodness!
that's
I was like, how do you guys go?
And that's
through
not
that?
real smoke.
No,
how many times have you eaten smoke before?
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's no joke.
Your lungs just freeze.
Yeah, it's a crazy feeling. You go in there and you feel like you're being suffocated. But listen, by the same token, you guys are walking into some situations, domestics, where you don't know what's going to happen. We at least know it's a fire.
Yeah.
You guys have no idea what you're going to face when you turn every corner.
Yeah,
to me, that's much scarier.
But there's a difference, and I'm going to explain to a fireman what the difference is. We have a fighting chance against a fire. You can throw as many punches as you want, and that's why I give firemen all the respect in the world, because you can't punch a fire back.
True.
So it's a force of nature that you're fighting.
True. And but for the most part, we're educated and we know the science of it, so that does help us. So kind of that gives us a puncher's chance. However, you're right. But the same thing when you listen, when the shit hits the fan, no matter whether you're a cop or a fireman.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes so fast. So that people don't realize things happen so quickly that you can't react in a way that maybe sometimes is the right way. And unfortunately, we're always held accountable. So,
But after a critical call such as that, and this is something of great interest to me, you go back to the firehouse. You're sitting around the table, whether it's chow time or whatever it may be. What's the mood in the firehouse, and how do you deal with whatever it is that you just saw?
it depends. There are times that we go back to the firehouse, and if we freaking made a good save, or we helped, deliver a baby, or we feel like we brought somebody back on a CPO call, we're ecstatic. We're like, fuck, can you believe we just did, man? It's unbelievable. Like, we feel like we're fucking Superman. But then there's times we'll come back where, where we lost somebody, and you're sitting there and you don't even talk. You don't talk. And fortunately now, in this day and age, we have avenues where we can go to help alleviate.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the older crowd, the older guys, the guys who were on before me, that, the way they made it better is they went to the bar and they drank.
They had to eat their
Right,
feelings.
they had their liquid medicine, and that's not a healthy way. We're at least afforded now the opportunity to go in avenues that are much more healthier. But, it's quite frankly, it's depressing when you go back there and you think maybe you had a shot and there was nothing you could do.
Well, you Monday morning quarterback yourself the whole time too. You go back. I mean, God forbid you lose someone and you just sit there and. I mean, I know, Fireman, you probably laid in your bed and said this, but
We don't have beds.
yeah, I know. Okay, you're laid
Racks.
you're laid
We got racks.
you're laid in your cot and said, could I have done this? Should
Well,
I
we
have
all
done that?
we all at one point laid in our own cot, which was your police seat with your ass just moved
course.
forward, just sleep.
But you know what? This all relates back to like the question, surviving. It's not an easy thing.
No.
Our careers, whether and we were just talking about dispatch. That's just as impactful.
Well, dispatch, I think it's tougher.
It's not even
because dispatch, you're powerless.
You're exactly. I was
True,
just
but-
going to say that
True.
you're powerless. You don't even see the scene when you're a cop or you're a fireman. You see the scene. You know what's going on. A dispatcher is sitting behind a microphone and trying to figure out what's going on there.
During my shooting, so I spoke. It was an officer on the desk. He sat there and had to listen to us calling out shots fired, and he's sitting. It's like being held down and continually being punched in the face.
Yes.
And the same thing would go with your dispatch.
Good dispatchers don't get enough credit.
No, they don't.
they
No,
don't.
They don't.
And the thing is, though, but I think we're all part of a puzzle that makes a successful
Community.
scene. Right, community. And if the dispatcher is doing his job, the cop is doing his job, the leadership is doing their job, and even the public's doing their job, we're all successful.
It's a cumulative effort.
Absolutely.
Everybody's got to have their hand in
Absolutely.
there
But I
somehow.
think that sometimes the dispatcher doesn't get enough credit for what they do and what they have to handle. I've been there. You got 9 phones ringing. You got 20,000 people calling, complaining, and saying this is going on. You have the cops, and you have got 2 guys in there that are trying to make it all come together. It's a tough
especially
job.
like with a fire. How many times do people call 911 when there's a fire? Dispatcher, they get the first call of a fire. They send a fire department out. They send a police fire. Now you get 97 more calls.
We got
That's
it.
exactly what
it's-
happens.
it's-
That's
exactly.
exactly what happens.
It's
And you're
dispatch-
trying to dispatch companies while the phone calls are still coming in.
If you're calling about the fire, we got it. If you're calling about the fire, we got it.
But you must have had some very proud moments as a fireman. 27 years. It's almost in an inner city. It's almost impossible to not have those very, very proud moments. If you were to pick out one, what do you think it might be?
And you rose rank too.
Yeah,
he's-
I'm fortunate. I retired as a battalion chief.
Oh, very nice.
First
Okay.
Puerto
He
Rican
was
battalion
amazing.
chief in
He
the
was
city's
amazing.
history,
So
which
he
makes
had,
me very
so he had
proud.
some hooks.
Drew,
Yeah, some hooks.
Yeah,
we got
some
another
hooks.
Puerto Rican in the house.
Yeah, we talked about.
He doesn't speak Spanish. He's from Hoboken.
Mike, we did.
I speak homo. I speak Spanglish.
Spanglish.
We did talk about the hooks, like in another episode.
True. You gotta have the hooks. You gotta have a good rabbi.
Yeah, see,
I haven't heard that term in a
Mike,
long
That's a great
time.
term.
That's a
right?
great
That's
term.
an old school term.
That's an old school. Who's your rabbi? Yeah, that's one I haven't heard. But what do you think your best moment as a fire?
The truth is, I don't have any one particular. The whole career to me was just my best moment. I had so many times and so many. The fire department has given me the ability to help people where, quite frankly, I would have never had that opportunity. So there's not one particular moment. I've been in fires. I've pulled people out. But quite frankly, to me, it was the same when, we get a call, the third call from an 85-year-old senior who's saying that she hears, something crackling in her house, and she's only calling us because she's lonely.
Yeah.
And so we sit there and we talk. Those were as gratifying as running into a burning building and pulling anybody out. So I think it's a collective thing of the whole job It's just the whole job is extremely satisfying. I'm very lucky that I was able to be a part of it, and especially, and I know we fool around about Hoboken, but Hoboken's a unique animal to me.
Yeah.
You know, it really is.
We break the balls, but
Yeah.
we are very serious about Hoboken.
We've learned that a lot through Mike. I mean, as much as we love to break Mike's balls and everything.
It's so much fun.
Hoboken is a community.
Until the beast comes out one of these days.
Hoboken people are like this.
Yeah.
You know, they don't, you know.
We take a lot of pride, and quite frankly, you know,
Especially, like you said, growing up in the projects of Hoboken.
Yeah.
It's not like Hoboken now.
no.
You know, this
$2,000 for a closet.
whatever they want to call it, the yuppie community or whatever. I mean, Hoboken is really on the rise now. But back in the day,
You got to survive.
yeah.
And that's one of the questions that was asked to me by Jeff Probst. Is like, what makes you think you're going to be a good survivor? I said, I've been fucking surviving my whole life. I had to navigate which way I walk to school so I don't get my ass kicked.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way it was back then. And
Mike
you
is
know,
always you're always well respected. A lot of people a lot of people looked up to Mike. They
well, I
really did.
appreciate that.
Why is he
Yeah.
like you? Why is he like you then?
What do you
Okay, go ahead, Kev.
Now it's
Segue it.
Now it's. I'll
I was gonna listen.
segue.
I swear the puzzle. I was gonna segue it into the. I picked up on that.
What we found, all the three of us here, is when it's time to hang up your fire boots, it's hard to turn that key into the off position. You know, it's never it's like one day, all right, it's time to retire. How do you just turn that off? What was that like for you?
Hard.
First of all, you think you're never going to retire, especially when you're younger. And, you know, you have the older guys and they say it's a young man's job. It's a young man's job. And you go, bullshit, man. I'm going to be here forever. I'm going to do 35. I'm not leaving until I'm 65. I love this job because, quite frankly, you get to go and hang out with your boys for 24-hour periods, and you're part of that club.
I always said, if you love what you're doing, you never consider it a job.
I never felt that I was going to work.
Like you said, I mean, that was perfect. You go hang out with the boys.
Right.
I consider my career in law enforcement just going and hanging out with the guys.
Exactly. I never went to work because I loved it so much. And I mean that. And I always tell the young guys now, how you feel now, always remember that. It may get hard sometimes. It may become a pain in the ass sometimes. But remember the feeling you have now because there's no other job that's ever going to give you that feeling. And you know, the truth is, when you know, you know.
Yeah.
Just, you know, like I remember when I was at that time, I could have stayed 30. Things were going on that were out of my hands. And I said, you know what? It's time. And it is a young man's job. And sooner or later, you have to turn over the reins to a younger buck who's ready to go out there and do what you probably did 20 years ago, that right now that you don't have it all in you to do.
That's a real interesting perspective. Yeah. You know, you're not so much hanging on to a career you love, is you're given the opportunity to have give somebody else the joy that you have experienced.
Exactly.
That's a really honorable thing to look at it that way. You know what? I don't think I ever looked at it that way. Like, fuck those younger guys.
Yeah, and listen.
Let them learn on their own.
Yeah, fuck those younger guys.
But listen, I always say, if you become a civil servant, whether you're a police officer or a fireman, you hit the lottery, man.
Yeah, you did.
Well,
I really believe that.
It's funny. People, you know, always say, oh, you know, the residents, I pay your salary.
Yep. Thank you.
And that was that. I mean, that's one of the most, I want to say, disrespectful things they could say to you.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, they do pay your salary.
Yeah, but they don't.
I mean,
pay,
they
they
pay
don't
that
pay for the aftermath. What we have to deal with
here's
mentally.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
But
Like
the truth is, I don't think, and I don't want to speak for you guys, I wasn't there
For the
them to
money.
pay. Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of that.
same here.
It's a means to an end.
Right.
We loved it.
We love that, you know, we get paid, and it gives us an avenue that we can be at a job we love and raise our families. The truth is, quite frankly, I would have probably done it for free.
But you did Survivor for the money.
Yeah, actually, technically, I did it. Listen, man.
So, Kev, that's called a segue.
That's a segue.
So my segment was better. The puzzle.
Before we get into the survivor part of Mike Turner, you turn that key to the off position. I know you don't shut down. Did you ever stand in the middle of whatever room and go, what the frick do I do now?
Actually, no. I had young kids. I was very involved in my kids' life. I loved being. I'm a family man. I got involved with my kids' life as I was before. Because as a fireman, that's the other thing people don't realize. When you're a fireman or a police officer, it gives you the ability to maneuver your schedule in a way that you can spend a lot of time with your kids, never miss their games. And so I just continued to do that because my kids were 10 and 11 at the time when I retired. So I went, I was involved in my kids' lives.
See, that's something as a police officer I miss because I didn't have that opportunity to manipulate my schedule like that. So when I retired, the commitment that I made to myself was, now I'm going to, and I was very fortunate. It's as bad as my situation was. There's a blessing to it.
True.
The blessing was absolutely I get to spend that more time with my children.
Right.
But see, I mean, I was lucky enough to work in the town that I lived in. So
it
if my kids had a game,
but-
you know, you just keep your radio on and you go down and watch your kids' game.
Yeah, I was very fortunate that 24, 72-hour schedule, I was able to go to everything or switch my schedule to so I worked for somebody and I never missed anything. I was fortunate. So when I retired, I'm not going to say, it's a funny thing. Either guys try and hang on and keep going to the firehouse or guys just fall off the cliff and they don't come back. I chose not to be one of the guys, and there's nothing wrong with it. I just chose not to be one of the guys that kept hanging out because I thought it would hurt me too much to keep going back and seeing what I missed. So when I left until, 10 years later. And
like seeing that old girlfriend that you loved, right?
Yeah. It sometimes it hurts a lot, and you don't want to regret it. So it's just better to remember the way it was and just move on.
Like a Band-Aid.
Exactly.
Right off.
That's for me. That's
actually great.
That doesn't work for everybody, but that's the way it was for me.
Now, did you continue were you living in Hoboken as you were a fireman?
I lived there until 90, and then I moved out to raise my kids.
Okay. And
you didn't want to raise your kids in Hoboken.
And that's the crazy thing, right? Here's the crazy thing is that
Hoboken's a great place, but I don't want to raise my kids
the thing is, it wasn't a great place growing up. We thought it was a great place, but then we always want,
you knew.
Right, but we always want better for our kids. So we assumed that better was the suburbs, better was a place where white picket fences. But the truth of the matter is, better is just in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, exactly.
The truth is now that I raised my kids, I raised them in this. I didn't give them other things that they could, the street smarts, the being understanding when people are watching you, not to walk and always be aware of your surroundings. They lost that element. They gained a lot of things, but they lost that element. And now Hoboken's a cool town. My kids come back. My son's living there. I'm back in Hoboken. It's a crazy thing. You kind of ran from it a little bit to raise your kids, and then all of a sudden you migrate back, and it's still a town you remember. Maybe even a little better, maybe a little worse, but still there.
Human beings, in order to survive, all right, you were born with certain instincts inside of you, and the better life gets, the duller those instincts get.
True.
Like you probably moved out of Hoboken and you relaxed a little bit, and when
you weren't
went,
as aware of your surroundings.
100%.
And then when you went back, you're like, it was probably muscle memory at that point. And then you have this unique opportunity not only to showcase your survival skills that you learned growing up in Hoboken and being a Hoboken fireman. How the hell do you get on Survivor?
I mean, really, when did it start? Did you watch it and say, well, I'm going to be on that show?
I've always been a Survivor fan. Since the first day we were at the firehouse, I hear about the show. They're going to give $1 million to these people. They're going to hang out and they're going to vote. It just was extremely intriguing to me. And then I watch it and I'm hooked. I'm hooked on the show. But I just watched the show. But I think I'm a super fan. I think I'm the biggest Survivor fan there ever was. But I just watched the show. I never looked at the things afterwards. I'm not a super fan. I'm a big fan. I found out what super fans are. However, life is always in the way. I have my career. I can't try for Survivor. I have my career. I have my kids growing. I can spend time with my kids, make sure they're okay. Don't have time for Survivor. You always make an excuse. Well, once my son was almost in his senior year of college, season 40 comes on, and I said, I'm sitting there with my girlfriend at the time. Says, you know what? Fuck this, man. I've been saying I want to try for Survivor. I didn't think
That's
I could.
awesome.
And you're how old at this point?
57.
That's great.
I got to be honest with you.
That's amazing. That's no joke.
At 57 to decide that you want to do, because it is a physical challenge.
Mike's a machine.
Except that I didn't think I was old. That's the problem. I didn't know 57 was old. When I looked in the mirror, I was delusional. I still saw 25-year-old Mike. I was a dumbass.
Mike, I hate to break this to you.
I know.
57.
You're old.
You're not a spring chicken.
I know. I didn't see it. Listen, I was looking through the rose-colored glasses, and I saw.
You're legitimately 8 years away from collecting Social Security.
I know. And then I think about my father at 57. I go, he was no fuck. I can't believe that I'm that old.
Well, I ran into a couple kids that I used to play little kids football with, and my father was our coach. And I'm like, they're like, oh yeah, your father was old back then. My father was 35.
We thought that was old.
It was old.
I think it's great you just came to the conclusion that day. I'm going to do it. That's
so
great.
We will watch it, and Jeff comes on like he always does at the end of a season.
At the end of the season,
and if you want to be on Survivor, go to see. And I was just sitting there. I got on my phone, and I go to the CBS website, and I said, fuck it. And I start filling out an application, half-ass. And then it says, right, I do the application, and quite frankly, I'm not even sure how well I did it.
This.
Yeah, how well I did it.
Hey, Jeff, just put me on the show. You're getting jacked up.
At this point, I'm putting in the greatest Survivor application of all time. That's how delusional I was.
There was a lot of this and that's in there.
Right, yeah. So I'm like, oh, they're going to love me. But meanwhile, I'm saying,
I'm a shoo-in.
80,000 people a year try out for this show. They pick 20, 18. So, and then it says, you need to upload a video. Meanwhile, this is how messed up I am. I'm thinking they want me to upload a video that I already have. I didn't know how to make a video. So I go to my camera roll, and I accidentally upload this stupid video of me singing on a ladder to my girlfriend at the time, and I couldn't get it off. I said, fuck, how do I can't. Fuck. I just sent it.
Now you see, all right.
It was 36 seconds long. I never said my name. I sang Always and Forever. And I said, oh, well, what are you going to do? Who cares? They're going to call me anyway. 4 months later, I get an email.
Now, what was that like? Stop there.
Oh, my God.
Stop there. You send in the application of application. Somebody on the other end receives this. They're going, hey, Jane, look what the fuck this guy just did.
That's what they had to say.
We need this guy on the show.
I'm thinking, I'm like saying, I ain't never going to be called.
Well, you got some guys that are trying to do the whole Survivor thing. They're eating worms.
Exactly. And they put on a production.
They put on a production.
Not me. I didn't say my name.
Yeah.
I didn't say my name. I didn't say I sang.
That's your hook, right? That's what your rabbi.
But you're a rabbi.
It may have been my hook, but I didn't know it was my hook. I had no idea. And being a Hoboken guy, I get an email. First thing I think is what? I'm getting fucking scammed.
Yeah.
Somebody's fucking pulling my leg.
Who's fucking
scamming me right now?
chain?
And I don't even open up the email. The next day, it was a Saturday, I say to my, I think I got an email from Survivor. And she goes, what does it say? I go, I didn't open it. Goes, what the hell's wrong with you? And so she goes, open it. So I open it up, and it was from a casting producer, and they said they were interested. Was I interested? And so I said, yeah. So I emailed back and I said, well, we need a real video from you within 72 hours. But I already fucked up because I already wasted 36 of those hours thinking it was a scam. So I had 24 hours to put a video in. I got my daughter there. I got my daughter in there. I'm yelling at my wife. And I said, I said, you know what? I'm just going to be me. Let's do it. Just film me for 5 minutes. I'm going to talk. I'm going to walk around the house. I'm going to introduce my family. And that's all I did. And then
it's probably one of the more original ones they got.
I was going to say, they probably knew you were real.
If I'm being really honest, they're in the casting room right now. They have my video up and they're laughing at it. They're saying, what the hell was he thinking?
I'm surprised that it hasn't made it onto YouTube yet.
Actually, I put it on, after the season, I put it on my Instagram, and it like 100,000 views within the first 2 days. Because people like saying, get the fuck out of here. That's not what the video said. So, and that was it. And then, 3 days later, Jeff Probst, who is a guy that I seen on TV, who I feel like is my friend because you watch him so much.
Exactly.
Is FaceTime in my house to talk to me about Survivor.
He's really that involved in the
He's
production.
very involved. And listen, I'm going to say this, and I mean this with all my heart. Jeff Probst is the most original, down-to-earth, exactly what you see is what you get. He loves Survivor. He's into Survivor. I thought he was amazing. He's everything I thought he was and more. It was an amazing experience because I was so happy that he is exactly what I thought he was that we see on TV.
But you know what? He's like an antagonist, though. He like at the tribal councils, though.
Of course.
He lays in with it, and he sees everything that's going on.
Yes.
I mean, does Jeff Probst sit like in a room and watch every? Because I mean, there's 24 hours of.
We don't know. The truth is, we don't know any of that.
Because he knows everything that's going on. He knows every
I would think he does, but we don't know
of
that.
every argument, every conversation. He's got to know because when they go to tribal council, Jeff Probst brings up like the weirdest shit that you barely even see on TV.
Right. I'm sure he's brought up to speed as to what's going on, but we don't know that out there. We're out there just playing the game, and what you see is us out there. That's really it. There's nothing other than there's no any kind of like coaxing us into doing anything. We're not getting fed. It's as real as you see, man. I mean,
no, you have to go through an audition process beyond your amazing video. I
can't believe that didn't bring me in right away.
Right. They must, they must.
Great.
Yeah.
So what's the audition process like? Because I imagine you have 80,000 people. It's probably brought down to 1,000 people, and how do you become?
You just go. There's a selection process, and you go through the steps. If you go through the first producer, then you go talk to Jeff. Jeff either gives you the high five and then you just go down to you talk to the CBS execs, and then they make a decision. And the truth is, you really never know what's the part that got you through or what they're looking for. You just are yourself, and then you finally hear, whether you're on or not.
Did you have to meet with like Les Moonves?
No.
No, you never got that high?
Never got that high.
So but I'm sure they do an in-depth background check on you.
Yes, I mean that's without they do psychological. They do.
No, not even that. It's like. Listen, if Mike De Palma was going to try out for that show, they'd get about 3 pages and go, Yeah, we can't have this guy on.
Or they may say, "Holy shit, he's gonna make great TV. We gotta have him on."
Me and you will just talk now. Let them.
I'm
talk.
just.
Me and you.
No,
Listen, I'm on your team.
No, you see what I'm saying? It's like, you know, if you were
the elephant in the
if
room.
you were promoting, you know, racist material, obviously they can't have you on a show.
Yeah,
that
they
type
absolutely.
of
Obviously, they're gonna make sure that you're not some kind of. First of all, you gotta make sure you can't beat anybody up. You know, stuff like that. Obviously. But for me to say I know exactly what they're looking for, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I just know that I went through the process.
I would be interested.
And unbelievably, they thought I was sane enough to be on the show.
Well, in order to try
You
out,
fooled
and
them.
I fooled them.
especially the way you gave your application, and there's sanity is debatable.
True.
Sanity is debatable.
Oh, I got a fresh head because I'm from Hoboken and we think we're something special.
But it worked for you.
Exactly.
But it worked for you. Now you find out, what's that conversation like with your significant other? It's like, oh, by the way, I'm going to be going away for
a couple months.
Well, I get that question a lot. First of all, my wife Stacy went through the whole process with me because you can't tell anybody. Obviously, nobody knows what you're going through because it's you sign a non-disclosure, so I can't tell anybody except for my significant other. So she's going through the process with me, and quite frankly, I'm extremely fortunate because my wife is so fucking awesome. She was not only supportive, she enabled me to get better at it by walking me through it. Because there were times I'm like, I don't know, man. And she goes, no, man, this is not, you love this show. You want to test yourself. You know, the bottom line is I'm 57 years old. I'm retired. My kids are older. I'm looking like I'm on the back nine. You know what I'm saying? And then the survivor opportunity comes along and you either, you know, go for it or you sit home and do shit.
Well, if you're going to do it, I'm imagining you're the type of person that goes full force.
I
You're
go
gonna
full
go
force.
full
So once I decide, I say to her, listen, if I'm doing this, I'm going all in. And she goes, I want you to be all in. And I'm very fortunate. She was very supportive. And I almost started to say she enjoyed the process too of going through it and everything that went along with it, which can be hard on a significant.
I was going to say it's got to be hard for her too because now when you get on Survivor, she only sees you every other Thursday, and that's on TV.
every other Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday,
Right,
Yeah.
but it's even worse than that because she doesn't see me then because we tape. I come home and then,
you were home before the
right. So
you got home before the season
right, so
even aired.
I literally disappear off the face of the earth for 54 days.
And your friends don't know where you are.
Nobody knows where I am.
Wow, that's
So she not
incredible.
only think about what she had to go through. So check this out. While people say like, "Oh my God, that must have been so hard," and yet it was hard to play the game. But if you think about it, my wife had it harder than me. While I'm here as Mike Turner, I got to worry about my kids. I got to worry about my business. I got to worry about my friends. I got to worry about where am I going to go? Who am I going to park?
Wow.
I got to worry about everything in the world. I leave. I worry about one thing: the game.
You worry about Mike Turner.
Right. My wife had to worry about all those things now. The bills, the house, the kids, the issues that go along with having kids. Is Zach going to graduate? Just all those things were put on her. And I felt bad about it. And that's why I almost like, I don't know if I should just do this to you. But quite frankly, she goes, no, you freaking do this. This is your dream. You've been wanting to do this for your whole life. You deserve this. You always put everybody ahead of you.
That's a good woman.
She's a great woman. I'm very, very fortunate.
But I think she was smart enough to understand that if she were to put the kibosh on this, that there would be some sort of deep resentment inside of you.
Yes, and she's a very intelligent woman. So yes, she probably did think that. I never thought that way, but you're right. I could have went.
She would have been crushing your dreams if she said
Yeah.
you're not doing it.
And quite frankly, it was a dream. And listen, I'm very thankful. Again, I didn't realize I was old. So going in at 57, and quite frankly, CBS and Survivor taking the chance on a guy like me to go out there and, quite frankly, on a crappy video that I sent in, to take a chance on me. You know, I what can you say? I'm a very, very fortunate person. I'm actually, honestly, I'm humbled by the whole experience. And not in terms of just being on the show, just right now, the aftermath of the show, the response I'm getting.
Because they call it reality stars, but you are a star to people.
Yeah, you gave
You know,
hope to anybody like,
Yeah.
an older.
You're an inspiration.
Yeah, wow, yeah, amazing.
But you go to, where was it filmed? Are
It
you
was
allowed
in
to
Fiji.
say?
Yeah,
It
we're
was
in Fiji. Yeah, we're in Fiji.
Okay.
And you'd never be able to go to Fiji on your own. So, you might as well
No
take the
way.
free trip.
I'm like, I got a trip. Listen, I actually said that.
they got
not for nothing. The accommodations.
My mind
suck
has
at
been
this
in Fiji a
freaking
few times.
all-inclusive resort.
You know, the one thing I like about Fiji is that water they got. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, it was a lot of
Fiji
fun.
bottled
It's made in
water.
Fiji.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
No, the
But now,
so-
now, if you went back to Fiji on vacation, you'd be staying in the resorts and everything else. You know, it would be different.
I hope so.
experience from it.
Listen, you never know. Financially, I might have to sleep on the ground again.
so you
That's
get,
what you got to do. Take your wife on vacation.
Yeah,
Hey, we're going to Fiji.
Yeah.
And you go back to the same jungle you were
Exactly.
staying in for.
you show up at Fiji and you don't really know. Nobody knows where you are. You're sort of off the grid.
Off the grid.
I didn't even
And
do the
no-
Hoboken Whisper.
Yes, I love my
That's
Hoboken
tough.
Whisper.
What's that like that first day on the island? Like, walk us through. You come off the plane.
Well, we don't come off the plane. Here's what happens. We had to do quarantine for 15 days. So they stick you in a room.
Oh, this is during lockdown too, right?
Yeah, it's right at the beginning of COVID, which was really we were the first commercial flights that were allowed into Fiji because they were on a total lockdown. They had extremely few COVID cases and they wanted to keep it that way. So we were put in quarantine for 15 days. Literally we're in a room by ourselves. And I mean when I say by ourselves, I'm alone. The rest of the cast is someplace else, they're alone. And the only thing that happened, we get a knock on the door, they put your food there, they'd swab us once every 2 days to make sure we didn't have COVID. 15 days later, we get a knock on the door. We say we're moving. We get on a boat, and we're off to get ready to go on the show. And simply they just wake you up and say you're on the show. That's it. And we pull up to the beach, and Jeff Probst is standing. It's exactly what you see on the show. It's surreal.
You land on the beach and the show starts. That's it.
That's
yeah.
it. You land on the beach, the show starts. That's it.
Once you see Jeff Probst, the show starts.
Wow.
It was
Yeah, it's
incredible. It was incredible seeing it. It was a very surreal moment for me because I've watched that
Yeah.
40 times prior to that happening. And now I'm standing out there as I arrive on the beach, and Jeff Probst is there waiting for me. Extremely surreal.
Paradise is not always what it seems, huh?
No, it's not.
What did it feel like
this is
inside?
real shit, man.
Like, what did you feel inside? Like, that's got to be some.
You're a little
Just-
nervous because
yeah.
you're trying to absorb the moment. You got to remember, it's the first time I'm really seeing any of these other people that I'm on the island with, especially the people that are on my tribe. And I'm trying to eye them down. I'm looking at their hands, and I'm looking at their hands. Do they have workers' hands? Do they have manicured
Yeah,
hands?
exactly.
Wow.
Are their shoes?
Yeah.
What kind of shoes are they wearing?
Oh, you're
I'm
out.
already playing the game in my head. Who's the guy fixing his bandana or his hat? They want to look perfect. As we're riding on the boat over there, we're trying to get a glance at this, and then you pull up, and Jeff is standing there, and you're a little nervous because in that moment when it's do or die, you're either gonna shit the bed or you're not, and that's the moment. This is it. You've been waiting forever. It's your moment, and a lot of times in your life you go through. I remember even taking a fireman. I remember when I first took the fireman. It was my life taking that fireman. I knew that was my make or break, whether I was gonna be successful in my life. To me at that time, and when I was taking this, I remember this is the moment that I have the Y in the road. I'm either gonna go left here. I'm gonna go right. If I go left, I'm gonna fucking make it. If I go right, I might crash and burn. And that's a heavy moment to put on yourself because that's it. Same thing when I landed on island. I said, this is the moment where I either do it or I don't do it. I'm either going to be successful at playing Survivor or I'm going to shit the bed and I'll be out of here tomorrow.
But what was it like when Jeff Probst just says to you, "Welcome to Survivor"? Was it like you said? You said it was surreal.
It's surreal.
It's just like, holy fuck, I'm here.
That's exactly what I said. I said,
Holy Christ!
I remember looking and saying, "Holy fuck, I'm on Survivor." Talking to Jeff.
Talking to Jeff.
It's very surreal.
Yeah.
It's seriously.
Well, I wore a shirt specifically for you today.
I like it.
There's no greater joy than peeing outside because on those shows such as that, as a fan, I'm going to ask you a fan question. Where the hell do you go to the bathroom?
Where do you shit?
We either do there's two places you can go. First of all, there are no porta potties. You hear that again? There are no bathrooms. There are no porta potties.
Do you at least have toilet paper?
No toilet paper.
Oh,
There's
my God.
nothing. It's literally what you see. We get nothing.
That's just downright torture. I don't think. Well, no, I shouldn't even say that. That's very bad.
Well,
Survivor. That's
it's
what
Survivor.
It is.
So
I would
gotta
be
remember,
out.
it's-
You what? You don't have toilet paper? I'm out.
Yeah.
I give
Goodbye.
up.
We used to dig
we're
holes.
supposedly marooned on an island with no supplies. So that's what it is. So you either
Supplies, you got diarrhea. That's what it is.
Well, the good thing is we didn't eat that much, so you don't go to the bathroom that much. I peed a lot, though. I peed everywhere. I marked every tree on that island. But listen,
Watching Survivor,
2
you see the
o'clock in the
guys.
morning, it's pitch dark. I'm bumping into stuff. I'm peeing on Jonathan's leg by accident. He's not too happy about that.
I always see you say watching Survivor. They'd be sitting there just lollygagging in the water. Those motherfuckers are peeing right there.
Yeah, you definitely. I made a lot of areas warm in that ocean. But you can do an aqua dump, which means you go in the ocean. You go in the ocean, or as they call it, do an aqua dump, which I did not like at all. Or we had an area where we just said, okay, this is gonna be the
Aqua
area.
dump isn't in the.
That's not a Hoboken word.
dictionary.
That's actually a great.
Yeah.
Put that in there.
Hoboken is the Hudson River.
Never,
listen.
never
Aqueduct.
invite me over to your swimming pool because I got to try this. I got to try this.
I kind of like that.
Hey, Mike, we're going to take an aqua dump. I'll see you in a couple minutes.
Aqua dump. That's my new word. That's my new word. But so in all honesty, you become accustomed. You become very soft by living in a civilization.
True.
By something as simple as toilet paper that now all of a sudden you have to do without. You have to do without everything. You have to be primal.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no toothpaste. There's no toothbrush. There literally is nothing. We're not washing our clothes. You know, we always have the great idea, like, you know, before you go on Survivor,
I'm
and
gonna
you'll
do this,
watch
I'm
it,
gonna do
you say,
that.
well, frick that. When I get out there, I'm gonna wash my clothes in the ocean. I'm gonna boil. When you're out there, here's what I say to everybody. When I'm watching the show, it's for 42 minutes out of 24 hours. When I'm out there, it's 24/7.
Yeah.
It becomes real. There's nothing that you can do to stop what's going on to you. It's the wettest I've ever been. It's the coldest I've ever been. It's the hungriest I've ever been. All within a 26-day period that I was out there.
But you did the Dewey Oxburger.
What's a
Okay,
Dewey Oxburger?
the Dewey Oxburger. Hey, you know, when
See,
he
Mike?
goes into the Army in stripes, he's like, hey, you got like an 8-week training program here. I figure I'll lose some pounds, So, Mike, how do we get him? How do we get him?
I
on
actually think
Survivor?
Mike's
What's
looking
up with the
great.
Dewey Oxenberg?
No, I'm not calling you Dewey Oxburger. I want to put you on Survivor.
Aqua
Drop
dump.
some weight.
No, see,
So Dewey Oxburger was
so
the John
mad.
Candy character? That's what it was?
I'm less pounds than both of you.
Stripes. It's from Stripes. It's John Candy and Stripes.
Yeah, Stripes. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Getting to that, how much weight did you lose on the island?
I lost 32 pounds.
Did you
And
really?
here's the thing is, when I got into shape before I went there because I wanted to be, again.
You're an
like
academy guy.
Yeah, I do everything. If I do it, I do it right. So I prepared properly. So I lost about 20 pounds to go. So I went in at 205, and I left about 172, 173.
Wow, because you're a big guy. I mean, you're not a slight guy by any means. So 170 pounds had to be real.
I haven't been that weight since high school.
Yeah.
So
And then when you get home,
How much you put on after it?
I was a pig.
Well, all right.
I was a glutton.
When you came home, first meal you ate.
First meal I ate was Benny Slices from Benny Tadino's in Hoboken, which I loved. They're like doormats. It was big. I ate 2 of those, and I had a loaf of cinnamon and raisin bread, which is one of my other favorite things.
Wow.
But my wife, my good wife, she was there at the airport. She had a bag full of goodies. She had my bennies there. It was amazing.
Nice.
Because literally, we went to Final Tribal, which is the ending of the show. If you're out before that, you go to a place called the Ponderosa. Those people, they lived a life of luxury.
Yeah,
It's amazing. It's like that's the vacation.
You almost want to be put on the tribal council. You know,
Yes.
if you get thrown out, all right.
You want to be on a jury.
People before tribal council, they get put in seclusion somewhere because they can't come home right away. Correct?
Everybody does.
Yeah.
So nobody comes home because then you would be able to know who got off the show.
But are the final people, you know, the jury,
They go to Ponderosa.
they segregated from the people that got thrown off before?
Yes. So there's 2 sets of people. There's pre-jury, they stay together, and then there's the jury, they stay together. They stay at the Ponderosa, which is a luxury resort. It's amazing. It's an amazing place.
And they're living a life of luxury.
Right. So
they went
get-
from nothing to everything.
Exactly. It's a great life. I fortunately and unfortunately didn't experience it as much as I would have probably have liked to. So, you know, the final tribal ends, you know, within 3 or 4 hours, I'm on a plane already heading back to the States. So when I landed, which was, you know, it was like about 18, 19 hours later, I'm still almost in the game. And, you know, I sat by myself. You can't talk to anybody. You're still sequestered. You can't talk to anybody. So I'm living in my own head. What happened? How'd it go? And I'm trying to, you know,
Process.
Thank you. Process is what goes on. And, you know, my wife, when I got the flame, she didn't recognize me.
Yeah.
Because I was so beat up, so tired. I had time to take a shower and eat breakfast, and we were on the shuttle.
You went to war.
Yeah.
In all reality, I mean, it's
How long were you there?
The game, 26 days
So 26 days you're there.
on that island.
Okay, out of those 26 days that you were there playing the game, what's the worst moment that you can remember?
I was just going to ask that.
Middle of the night, torrential downpour. You're literally laying there, and people think Fiji's warm. And I guess 40 is warm at night in some places if you have a blanket and a sweatshirt. But when it's pouring rain on you and it's 40 degrees and you're living out and you're laying on the ground or you're laying on this crooked, bumpy bamboo, it feels like every minute's an hour. And you're sitting out there, and thank God you at least have a couple of people with you. At least you can have somebody because if you were there yourself, at least you can have misery with somebody else and they kind of get you through. Those are the times that were roughest. It was like you felt that sun was never going to come up.
Did you ever go nut the butt?
Never. Never. Back to back.
That's so. It's a psychological game. It's amazing.
If I was playing a psychological game, I'm like, no, we spoon. We go.
No, actually, we're not allowed to. You're not allowed to spoon anymore.
Oh, you're not.
Yeah, it gets too crazy when you start spooning. So no showmances.
I was gonna say, was there any showmances?
No show. Not that I know of. There was no showmances that I know of at all.
Now, your final tribal council. Did they fly you back to the States for that? Because I know a couple times they did it in like L.A. in a studio.
No. Well, what they used to do is they used to get to the final tribals on the island, obviously at the end.
And then Jeff used to take the final tally and say, jump on a helicopter.
And it looked like he came into the L.A. studio. Yeah. That used to be it was, and quite frankly, when you get there, and that's what we were kind of looking forward to. But because of COVID, they didn't want to take a chance. So now they have, and it's just a new game. It's a faster game. Old Survivor pre-season 41. That was the game, 39 days. Now it's a faster game. It's much more advantages and things going on. We have to move quickly. And Jeff compares it to the monster in the room. Like if a monster comes in the room in a horror movie, either get out of the room or you're going to get killed. Same thing in Survivor. Either you make a move right then or you're going to go home. You're dead. And so it's a much faster game. So what they do now is they announce the winner on the island, which, quite frankly, in my case, I didn't win. I lost in the finale. It's a tough to process at that point. But the bottom line is, at that point, even when I lost, I felt very fortunate to be in the position I was in.
But you really didn't lose. You made it to the end. I mean, coming out number 2.
I don't call that losing.
Listen,
no way.
Just being on the show, I thought I won. And that's the truth. I thought I won. I thought I represented well for my age. I wanted to show in my own little way that didn't matter what age you were. Get off the couch. You could do what you want to do. Again, I looked at myself. I didn't realize I was 57 in those terms of being old.
But you know what? You lived a dream.
100%.
You lived a dream. I mean, I watched Survivor for years.
Yeah,
I always thought, like, I'd love to go on that show, but I don't like bugs.
How the hell they keep you sequestered for so long? Like, just not talking. It must have been eating you up inside.
In terms of what?
When you came home and the show hadn't aired yet, or obviously the end of it hadn't aired yet.
The truth is, you want to keep quiet. For me, I can only say the way I felt. When I came home, I didn't want to ruin it for anybody I loved. Of course, if you look at me, I lost some weight, so people they didn't think I was the first out. But I didn't want to tell my kids what I did, because number one, I didn't want to ruin it for them. Number two is, I didn't want them to start asking more questions. And same with my friends. And quite frankly, everybody respected that I didn't want to say it or that I couldn't say it. And quite frankly, I love the show so much that I wanted it to be fresh for the people in Hoboken, the people that will love me, my family, my friends. So, I actually really, other than my wife, who was my total confidant, nobody really knew what happened on the show except for the people that were there and my wife.
But now if you won, how would it be going back? You got to throw your heads up in the air and say, I fucking won. That's got to be tough.
But, then I take away the moment from everybody that I love at the moment it happens. I almost ruined that moment. It's like opening up a present before Christmas.
Listen, if you hit the lottery, you're fucking telling everybody I hit the lottery.
Yeah, but I would get the money that day. Survivor had to wait for it.
Especially, you're coming home. The show ends. People are real excited. One of our own got on this show, and was the whole experience what you built up in your head being a Survivor fan for all those many years?
The show itself was, the truth is, everything was much more than I ever expected. Being on the show was much more than I expected. Meeting the people that I met. Listen, I went on that show saying, quite frankly, I got enough fucking friends. I'm 57 years old.
I'm not going to talk
I don't
to
need
anybody.
any friends. I don't really give a shit about these people. I'm going to go out there and I want to win the game. I want to fucking be the best. We're very competitive from Hoboken. I want to win. I want to win. I wind up going out there and I meet people from all walks of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we had every kind of person from every walk of life, to every religion, every gender. It didn't matter. And I can say with confidence that those people opened my world up to many things that I never thought I would experience.
You still keep in touch with a lot of those people?
I keep in touch with every one of them.
Yeah.
They're all great people.
Even like the backdoor, I mean, there's a lot of backdooring that goes on.
Of course, but you know what I equate that
what
to?
Survivor you watch?
It's a game.
Well, when you say backdoor, I don't mean...
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Right. But here's the deal. I equated it to playing poker. Me and you, we're playing poker here, and I have a pair of deuces. You have a full house. I bluff you into believing that I have more than that with my pair of deuces. You go out with your full house. I win a big pot with deuces. you're going to be pissed off. You may be even pissed off at me a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're going to say, fuck, that was a good move. Yeah, Mike was. That's how he equated the game. I may have thought of that too much like that because I think it's more emotional with the game, but that's the way I thought it. So when the game was over, whatever anybody did to me out there, it was part of the game.
Yeah, you made some good decisions. Yeah, you made some really, really good decisions.
There was the one tribal council years ago, and I think the girl's name was Sue. It was on one of the first episodes.
Yes.
She said,
Sue Hawk.
Yeah, Sue Hawk. I would if I saw you dying on the side of the road, I wouldn't spit to give you,
Yeah, I kind of listen. Some of my confessions, I kind of said stuff like that, like get ready. His head's gonna be. We have the guillotine ready. We're gonna chop his head off. I can hear it rolling down the street right now.
Yeah, but that's all part of the game.
That's all part of the game.
Sue Hawk. That was like a classic moment in Survivor history.
Just like again, we have the rat and we have the snake. She said, I think.
Yeah.
Who's gonna win?
Now you come back and the show airs. You have this newfound notoriety. You got the little blue check mark on Instagram. Hoboken Mike
That blue check was big, man.
Yeah, that was a big deal, right?
It was bigger for my daughter because she couldn't believe it. But
Yeah,
it was big.
So what are you doing with this new notoriety that you have?
Here's the beauty of being on Survivor. My whole life, it's not about like me. I just like to help people, and I like. To me, nice.
Obviously, you're a fireman.
Yeah.
Nice is free. I always say it costs $0 to be nice. It's a shame more people don't give it away. Survivor has given me a platform to help people in need. So, especially in Hoboken. Obviously, I love Hoboken a lot. So I'm trying to be involved with the shelter. We have a Hoboken food pantry. We have the community lifestyles, which helps out, underprivileged kids go to camp that they never see. And I went to Camp Tamaqua back in the 60s and 70s in Hoboken. That was the only time I ever saw a tree, or in terms of wildlife. And we used to go with the YMCA, and they do that for kids now. So these are programs that I lend my name to that I can't believe. I'm saying, like, I have an opportunity for them to say, hey, Mike Turner from Survivor Season 42 is going to be there. And that brings people to know the program and give more money.
That is fantastic.
I'm doing a 5K on the 29th. I put a team together.
Oh, wait till you see the notoriety for being on the Suffering Podcast.
That's
that's what I was going to say. What was more special to you, being on Survivor or being on the Suffering Podcast?
It's
if you
didn't have the blue check mark, this would definitely give it to you.
This would give it to me.
Wait, I have a question. This is actually from Lexi.
Here we go.
No, This is a good question. What was your toughest challenge?
The toughest challenge.
Sitting next to Mike DePalma?
No. Listen,
That's a good one. Even Lexi laughed at that one.
She likes that one.
Was it like that was some tough water?
One water challenge that we had where he stopped. We were literally, it probably shows about 15 minutes of it going on, but we were out there about 45 minutes. And quite frankly, I was pissed that we had to be stopped because I didn't want to give up. However, that was the roughest one.
Yeah,
the water was crazy. It was getting worse and worse, and just throwing us around. And quite frankly, we didn't eat at that point at all.
Yeah.
So we were weak. But that was the toughest challenge. Who knows?
So,
do you remember the episode with Elizabeth Hasselbeck?
I don't. Which one? I remember her on the show, obviously.
Yeah, she was on there, and she actually called me cute.
Really?
She must have not
just shut up.
eaten for a while.
Just shut up and let me talk.
She went through the aqua dumping crap thing.
And
she called him cute as he was aqua dumping.
And she loves older bald guys.
Plasticity. What was that? Is that right?
Her husband played for the Giants. And he's an older bald guy. And I had some connections. I was in a player's parking lot after a Giant game one day, and Elizabeth Hasselbeck came out. Her husband played for the Giants. And she saw my son. My son was real short, real small at that time. And she said, "You are so cute. You look just like your father." I said, she called me cute then.
You see what he heard? I didn't hear that.
No, I didn't hear that.
I don't even listen to these two anymore.
But it's the same.
I'm just here like
she called me cute by proxy.
It's the same thing.
I'll take it.
It's the same thing as looking at a three-toed sloth and saying, "Oh, that's so cute."
Yeah.
It's really not cute.
That three-toed sloth is so fast.
That's what I'm talking about, Kevin. Take that. Touche.
So, Mike, is there anything you want to plug out there? Or what are you doing now?
I just listen again. My platforms are, trying to help out the Hoboken shelter. I put a team together for the Hoboken 5K on October 29th.
I saw the poster up there. And,
if you guys want to come and join my team with the Hoboken Whiskers, we know the Hoboken Whisper. We can't stay quiet.
That's why it was so tough for you, probably not saying anything.
Well, that was the biggest thing.
They don't say anything to anybody.
My wife and my kids were saying, "Says, Dad, you know you can't talk loud out there. And I go, what are you fucking talking about? I don't talk loud. And of course, and so when we got home, the first things my kids asked, was my dad loud out there? And they go, yeah, he was loud. Because they all knew about the Hoboken Whisper, too. So,
so you got the Hoboken.
Listen, if you're looking for a runner, don't look to your left. Here we go.
So you got the Hoboken 5K. Where can we find you on social media?
Hoboken Mike T on Instagram, Hoboken Mike T on Twitter, and just Mike Turner on Facebook.
And of course, we're going to put links to all that
Yes.
stuff in our show notes.
Yes.
Especially since it's such a worthy cause. We can't thank you enough for coming in here.
Dude, you're such a good dude.
Mike.
Yeah, you're such a good
serious.
dude.
Yeah.
Listen,
It's an honor.
We
Thank
could
you.
bring him in. Listen, if we need a Hoboken guy in here from now on,
Whoa. I can't step on Mikey's shoes.
No, I'm okay with it. Honestly, I'm okay with it.
No, because they'll be nice to me in the beginning. Then I'll start being you
100%.
after a while.
Yeah.
And then I get some shoes. I know.
That's how we suck you in.
They'll suck me in and I'll be done.
You better patent that aqua dump thing. I'm telling you right now, we might have to get shirts.
Mike, you've lived a very interesting and storied life, from being a fireman to being on one of the top-rated reality shows in the world. And you've suffered through every bit of it. You suffered being a fireman. You suffered for 28 days on the island of Fiji during Survivor. What do you think that suffering has
during the
taught you?
pandemic, no less.
Yeah. What do you think that suffering's taught you?
It taught me no matter what, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And as long as you persevere, you'll always come out ahead. And that's really it. There isn't a person in this world that doesn't suffer in some form. The weight we carry is the weight we carry. I may think I have the biggest weight, but your weight may not be as much to me, but it may be the biggest weight you've ever carried.
Amen.
And to end this show, we brought in one person who has made this all possible. And
Who gave us a social media question.
social media question. She is actually here in studio, and that's Lexi.
One of our biggest fans.
Yes, Lexi.
Thank you for Lexi.
Thank you so much,
Yes,
Lexi. Now you're going to be a superstar just like Mike.
Wait, which Mike?
Yeah, Mike Turner.
Both
Not
Mikes.
like this
Pick
Mike.
one.
All three.
Pick
she
one.
kept you out of the equation.
I know, but I did get a bracelet.
Yes,
That's all I care
Listen,
about.
I just want to go.
She owes Mike.
I am a
one.
little hurt. I am a little
Yes.
hurt.
We're bracelet buddies now.
I just want to go on record. Lexi is the one who made this whole episode possible.
Absolutely.
And that's why we wanted to bring you in here and say thank you, Lexi.
Thank you,
Lexi,
Lex.
thank you very much for everything. All right. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of Survivor with Mike Turner. And as usual, we're going to think about all the stuff that we learned here. Hard people create good times. Hoboken is a real community with its own language. Paradise is not always what it seems.
We have the dictionary.
My new word is aquadump.
Love it. Love it. Love the aqua dump.
Sometimes reality exceeds expectations, but most importantly, it costs zero to be nice. That's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount. Follow the Suffering Podcast at the Suffering Podcast. Follow Mike at Mike Failace, Mike_Failace. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And we're going to see you on the next episode of the Suffering Podcast.